My name is Mira Evans, and this is the story of how I lost everything and how I swore to take it back. 5 years ago, I wasn't this woman sitting in front of you, sipping wine and watching the city lights like they belonged to me. No, back then, I was nothing but a dreamer. A girl in love. A girl who thought loyalty meant forever. I loved Ethan Whitmore. God, how I loved him. We grew up together in Riverton, walking those quiet streets where everyone knew each other's names. I believed he was my home, my safe place. But I was wrong. So painfully wrong. It all began on a rainy night. I walked into Whitmore Enterprises, holding a folder filled with my designs, my heart, my future, my dreams on paper. I wanted Ethan to be proud of me. I wanted him to say, "We'll build this life together." Instead, I found him in the boardroom. Not alone. Beside him stood Claire Montgomery, my best friend. My sister in everything but blood. And in his hands was my folder. My work. My future. I froze in the doorway. They didn't even flinch. Claire just smiled, her hand slipping into Ethan's as if it belonged there. "Mira," Ethan said, his voice cold. "You should have known. You were never built for this world. But your ideas? They are." I wanted to scream, to fight, but my throat closed up. Claire leaned in, whispering words that cut sharper than knives. "You were too small for him, Mira. Too weak. We're not stealing, we're taking what you could never protect." The sound of my own heartbeat drowned everything else. I walked out into the storm that night, and I swore, through the tears, through the pain, that one day they would pay. That was 5 years ago. Tonight, I'm back in Riverton. The city that once broke me now glitters at my feet. And I am no longer the girl they abandoned. I am the woman who will end them. Ethan Whitmore. Claire Montgomery. Your empire is built on my blood. And I am here to burn it to the ground. 5 years can change everything. Riverton thinks I disappeared, but I never left. I studied them. I watched them. And I built myself into someone they could never ignore again. Now I wear power like a second skin. My name opens doors. My investments control whispers on Wall Street. And my face, once a shadow, is suddenly everywhere in glossy magazines. When I walked into the Whitmore Gala tonight, silence followed me like a crown. The chandeliers dripped in gold, the air thick with perfume and ambition. And there they were, Ethan Whitmore and Claire Montgomery, arm in arm, the golden couple of Riverton. Everyone applauded as they descended the staircase, every flash of the cameras feeding their illusion of perfection. But when Ethan's eyes found mine, the applause faded into tension. His smile faltered. "Mira Evans," someone gasped behind me.
No, she vanished.
She's back.
Yes.
I was back. Claire's expression cracked just for a second, but it was enough. A flicker of fear, of recognition. She recovered quickly, wrapping herself tighter around Ethan's arm, as if clinging to her stolen prize. I let them see me. I let them feel my presence. And then I struck the first note in my symphony of revenge. During the charity auction, when Ethan proudly unveiled a new expansion project, I raised my hand. 1 million, I called out.
The room gasped.
Claire's jaw clenched. And Ethan, his eyes widened. Because the project he was auctioning was mine. The designs I once sketched, the plans I once shared in trust. I smiled sweetly as I signed the check. "Consider this," I said softly, "my contribution to the dream you stole." Gasps rippled through the hall. Claire's nails dug into Ethan's arm. He tried to speak, but the words stuck in his throat. Later that night, I stood alone on the balcony, watching them scramble in whispers, their perfect image cracking at the edges. That was the beginning.
Just a taste.
I wasn't here to ruin them in a day. I was here to unravel them, thread by thread, until they destroyed each other. Ethan Whitmore. Claire Montgomery. You don't even realize the storm has already begun. The night of the gala was only the beginning. But beginnings are powerful. They plant seeds. Seeds of doubt, of fear, seeds that grow into storms. And I could already see it. Ethan and Claire, Riverton's golden couple were no longer looking at each other the same way. 2 days later, headlines spread across the city. Mira Evans returns, Riverton's forgotten heiress bids big at Whitmore Gala. Suddenly, I wasn't a ghost anymore. I was a threat. I knew Claire would hate it. She thrives in the spotlight, but only when it's hers. So when every camera shifted to me, when every whisper compared us, I knew her jealousy would start to gnaw at her. And jealousy is a poison. That evening, as I strolled through Whitmore Tower's lobby, I saw them. Ethan's voice sharp, Claire's tone sharper. "You should have told me she was back," Ethan snapped. Claire's eyes flared. "And say what? That your ex is parading around, trying to humiliate us." "She isn't just an ex, Claire. She knows things. About the company. About me." I watched from the shadows, a smile tugging at my lips. He was nervous. She was defensive.
Perfect.
But I wasn't fighting them with just words or whispers.
No.
I had an ally, Daniel Cross. Once Ethan's most trusted business partner, now quietly at my side. Daniel had his own scars, his own betrayals to avenge. He was the one who gave me access to the cracks in Whitmore Enterprises. The ones no one else dared to expose. "Strike carefully," Daniel told me one night over wine. "If you move too fast, they'll close ranks. You want them to turn on each other. That's how empires fall." And he was right. So I fed the fire. An anonymous tip to the press here. A forged document there. Claire's name started appearing in whispers about missing funds. Ethan's reputation began to falter, his boardroom loyalty wavering. I didn't have to lift a sword. I just had to aim the mirror at them and let them see the ugliness they created together. One night, Claire showed up at my penthouse. Alone. Her smile was painted on, her perfume heavy, but her eyes, they were fire. "You think you can waltz back in and destroy me?" she hissed. I tilted my head. "Destroy you? Claire, darling, you already did that to yourself." Her hand trembled as she pointed at me. "This city is mine, Mira. Ethan is mine. Everything you lost is mine." I stepped closer, my voice like silk. "Then why do you sound so afraid?" For a moment, her mask slipped. And I saw it, the fear, the panic. That was when I knew Claire Montgomery was not untouchable. She was breakable, and I would be the one to shatter her. Revenge is never loud in the beginning. It's quiet like a whisper in the dark. And then, suddenly, it's a storm no one can ignore. That storm hit Ethan and Claire faster than they ever expected. The Whitmore Charity Brunch, their stage, their spotlight. An event covered by every major magazine in Riverton. Guests in pearls, champagne glasses clinking, cameras flashing. I made sure to attend. Not as a guest hidden in the crowd, but front and center, in a silk gown that made the photographers turn away from Claire and toward me. She hated it. I could see the way her jaw tightened every time a flashbulb turned my way instead of hers. And then, the moment I had been waiting for arrived. The host took the stage, praising Ethan and Claire's perfect partnership. But before Ethan could step up to deliver his rehearsed speech, a voice rang out from the crowd. "Tell us about the missing funds, Mr. Whitmore."
Gasps.
Cameras swung. Ethan froze. Claire's smile cracked. Another voice. "Is it true your expansion project was stolen from Mira Evans?" Suddenly the air shifted, heavy with suspicion. Claire's nails dug into Ethan's arm as if she could hold him together. He tried to laugh it off, but his voice faltered. Ridiculous rumors, baseless. But no one believed him. Not anymore. And I stood there, wine glass in hand, watching their empire wobble on its pedestal. That night, I got exactly what I wanted. The magazines didn't talk about their charity work. They talked about their fight. Because, yes, there had been a fight. Not behind closed doors, oh no, not this time. In front of half the city, Claire had snapped. "You never should have let her come back, Ethan," she shouted, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. And Ethan, red-faced, barked back. "Maybe if you hadn't stolen what wasn't yours, Mira wouldn't even matter." The room fell silent. The Whitmores, the golden couple, had fractured in front of everyone. Back at my penthouse, I replayed the moment in my head over and over. Their masks had cracked. Their secrets were bleeding into the open. But Daniel, my ally, wasn't celebrating. He looked at me with wary eyes. Careful, Mira. Push them too hard, too fast, and they'll come for you. Remember, cornered animals bite. I smiled faintly. Let them bite. I'm not the girl they left bleeding in the rain anymore. Still, when I closed my eyes that night, I remembered something. A letter I once received years ago. A letter I ignored. One line written in my father's handwriting. The Montgomerys are not who you think they are. For years, I never understood it. But now, a dangerous thought crept into my mind. What if Claire's betrayal wasn't just personal? What if it had roots deeper than I ever dared to imagine? Revenge always felt simple to me. Ethan betrayed me.
Claire stole from me.
So I would destroy them.
Piece by piece.
But the truth? The truth is never simple. It's messy. It bleeds. And last night, I discovered blood on my hands that wasn't even mine. Daniel showed up at my door just past midnight. His face pale, a folder clutched in his hand. You need to see this, he said. Inside the folder, old contracts, property deeds, letters. All signed by the same name, Richard Montgomery, Claire's father. But one name leapt out at me, a signature that didn't belong. Thomas Evans. My father. I stared at it, the ink blurring through my tears. My father. The man who taught me to dream, who told me hard work could never be stolen. He had signed deals with the Montgomerys. Deals that sold away pieces of my future before I even knew it existed. Your family and hers were tied together long before Ethan, Daniel whispered. This wasn't just betrayal. It was inheritance. Claire didn't just take from you, she was raised to believe it was hers. The room tilted. My chest burned. All this time, I thought Ethan had been the blade in my back. But Claire? She had been carrying a map written in my bloodline, waiting for the moment to claim what her family had always wanted. The next morning, I went to visit my mother. Her eyes filled with tears the moment I walked in. You found out, didn't you? She whispered. I slammed the folder onto the table. Why didn't you tell me? Her hands shook as she pressed them to her lips. Because the truth was worse than the lie. Your father, he made a deal with Richard Montgomery years ago. He needed money, Mira. For the company. For us. And the price was you. The words echoed like a gunshot.
The price was me.
I left her house with rage burning through my veins. All this time, I thought I had been betrayed by lovers and friends. But it had started long before that. It had started with my own blood. That night, I stood on the balcony of my penthouse, staring at the glittering skyline. And I swore a new vow. This wasn't just about Ethan anymore. This wasn't even just about Claire. This was about the Montgomerys. About my father's sins. About the chains tied to my family's name. And I would break those chains, even if it meant burning every last piece of Riverton to the ground. Revenge isn't about hurting people. It's about exposing the rot underneath the polished surface. And the Montgomerys? Their surface gleamed like gold. But underneath, it reeked of decay. The next morning, I arrived at Riverton Historical Archives. A place no one visits willingly. Dust-covered ledgers, yellowed newspapers, contracts from decades ago. I was looking for one thing. Proof that the Montgomery Empire had been built on more than just ambition. It had been built on betrayal. Hours passed. My fingers stained with ink and dust, my eyes aching. And then, I found it. A ledger dated 22 years ago. The Montgomerys had forged deals with my father. My father had signed, desperate and blinded by pride. They had siphoned funds meant for my mother's business, funneled wealth into Claire's upbringing, and ensured I would grow up invisible. I closed the ledger and let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. This wasn't just personal. This was systemic. A plan spanning decades. And the worst part? Ethan had no idea. He had been a pawn, blind to Claire's manipulation. Claire, she had been groomed for this, raised to inherit what was never hers, and to destroy me along the way. That night, I confronted Ethan at his office. He looked at me, weary, his blue eyes filled with confusion and something softer, guilt. You don't understand, he said. I didn't know. Claire, she never told me. I thought you walked away. I let out a bitter laugh. You didn't know? Ethan, I've been fighting shadows for 11 years, while you and Claire lived in a castle of lies. And you call yourself innocent. He flinched, but there was no turning back now. I slid the ledger across the table. Read this. Every line, every signature. Your family's empire, built on my life. His fingers trembled as he held it.
I
had no idea, he whispered.
No, Ethan. You did know deep down.
Everyone does, when lies are thick enough to choke truth. The next day, I sent Claire an invitation.
Dinner.
Tonight. Whitmore Estate. Just you and me. She arrived, poised, elegant, perfume masking the fear I already sensed. Why are you doing this? She asked. Because it's time you remembered who started all of this, I said calmly. Not Ethan. Not the city.
Me.
She laughed, sharp and cold. You think you can intimidate me? I've been trained for this my whole life. I tilted my head, smiling softly. Maybe. But training isn't the same as experience. And I've survived worse than you can imagine. Her smile faltered slightly. That was the moment I realized she was human after all. That evening, as we faced each other across the dinner table, the tension was almost suffocating. I laid out the evidence, one piece at a time, watching her reactions. Her carefully constructed life began to crumble in real time. Her voice shook. Her eyes darted. And in the corner of the room, a single portrait of Richard Montgomery seemed to watch us, silently. You manipulated everything, she stammered. No, I said softly. Your family did. You were just their puppet. But the strings? I'm cutting them tonight. By the time she left, tears streaked her face. But I didn't feel pity. I felt power. The power of a woman who had clawed her way out of invisibility. The power of truth. The power of revenge served with precision. And this was only the beginning. Revenge is a game of patience. And patience is nothing without timing. I waited for the perfect moment to strike, and tonight, Riverton would feel the quake. The gala at the Riverton Grand Hotel was the perfect stage. Gold chandeliers, a sea of tuxedos and gowns, cameras poised to catch every smile. Claire and Ethan glided through the crowd, unaware that the spotlight was about to shift. I entered quietly, in black silk that drew eyes without screaming for attention. I didn't need to scream. The storm I carried was louder than any shout. Step 1. Subtle exposure. I handed a single dossier to one of Riverton's top investigative journalists, a woman who had once refused bribes from the Whitmores. Inside, contracts, bank transfers, emails between my father and Richard Montgomery. Proof of the decades-long scheme. By the time Claire realized, cameras were clicking. Reporters whispered among themselves, forming the first cracks in her perfect facade. Her lips parted in shock, a carefully curated smile faltering. Ethan tried to intervene. Mira, stop this. You don't know what you're doing, he shouted, panic cracking his composed exterior. I let him speak. Everyone else was already watching, already reading, already realizing the empire they idolized was built on lies. And Claire? She had nowhere to hide. I moved closer, softly, voice carrying only to her. You spent your life thinking you could control everything, Claire. But control isn't power. Knowledge is. Truth is. She trembled, eyes wide. You'll destroy us, she whispered. I smiled, cold but not cruel. I'll destroy what needs destroying. And I'll rebuild what deserves it. Your time is over. By midnight, the city was buzzing. Social media exploded with leaked documents. Headlines screamed, Montgomery empire built on betrayal. Riverton's golden couple faces scandal. Claire Whitmore's rise, a legacy of lies.
And I
walked through it all with Michael by my side, Leo sleeping in the car seat behind us, untouched by the chaos. I had taken the stage. I had exposed the rot. And I had survived it. Step 2. securing my future. I sent a private email to every hospital, charity, and partner who had previously worked with the Whitmores. Attached, detailed evidence of mismanagement, but also proof of my integrity and track record. Responses came flooding back within hours. Partnerships, offers, inquiries about Mednova, my company. I was no longer just Mira Evans. I was the woman who had risen from betrayal, the one who had survived, and the one who commanded respect. Step 3. Claire's final collapse. By morning, she was isolated. Ethan's loyalty shaken, her family's power questioned. Every whispered rumor now a confirmed fact. And I watched from afar, hands clean, victory measured and precise. Because revenge isn't about chaos. It's about precision, timing, patience, and above all, survival. I had clawed my way from invisibility, from betrayal, from the shadow of a family who had abandoned me. Now I was not just surviving, I was shining. The city had changed. Or maybe I had. Riverton streets seemed smaller now, its golden towers less imposing. Everything Claire had built felt fragile, like glass in the hand of someone who knew exactly where to strike. But I didn't want destruction. I wanted justice. And justice, I realized, could be quiet, precise, unstoppable. The morning after the final confrontation, I sat at my office window, watching Riverton wake. Emails pinged continuously, hospital partnerships, investment opportunities, and messages from students seeking mentorship. I poured coffee, Michael beside me, Leo's laughter echoing from the playroom. Real life. Real victory. And yet, a shadow lingered.
Claire.
I knew she wouldn't disappear quietly. Step 1. Containment. I summoned her top lieutenant, a man loyal to Claire out of fear, not respect. Everything's over, I said. The empire is collapsing, and anyone who helped maintain it will answer questions. You will cooperate, or your name will be next in the headlines. Fear replaced loyalty in his eyes. He nodded. That was all I needed. Step 2. Affirmation. I walked through Riverton's hospitals, meeting staff who once whispered behind my back. Now, eyes wide with recognition, they greeted me warmly. You built this, one nurse said, gesturing at the Mednova monitoring systems. Yes, I replied, voice calm, letting the weight of truth settle. And you helped patients survive because of it. Step 3. Closure. Claire finally sent a message.
Short. Desperate.
You think you've won. You'll regret this. I smiled. I didn't reply. Victory doesn't need justification. It doesn't need threats. It just exists. Weeks passed. The Whitmore empire crumbled publicly, their lawsuits piling up, investors pulling out, media outlets dissecting every false claim, every hidden contract. Claire's name became synonymous with scandal, but I didn't gloat. I let the city witness justice quietly, from the edges. Michael and I spent evenings in our garden, Leo chasing fireflies, sunlight catching the golden tips of our modest home. The weight of my past lifted, replaced by the quiet power of having built something of my own. The final message arrived unexpectedly. An email from a charity that once relied on the Whitmore funding. Would you consider taking over our mentorship program? We need leaders like you. I paused, thinking of every betrayal, every sleepless night, every tear shed alone. Then I typed back simply, I'll be there. Mira Evans had survived betrayal, deception, and years of being told she was nothing. Now, she was not just surviving. She was leading, building, shining. And the city of Riverton would never forget the quiet, unstoppable rise of the woman who refused to stay invisible. Morning sunlight spilled through the tall windows of our home. Leo's laughter echoed through the hallways, chasing away the ghosts of the past. Michael moved effortlessly in the kitchen, humming softly, preparing breakfast for our little family. I stood at the balcony, watching the city awake, feeling the weight of every battle fought, every injustice endured, finally lift from my shoulders. Step 1. Personal peace. I walked through my office, past plaques, letters, and awards, all reminders of what I had built. Mednova wasn't just a company. It was proof That even when the world says you are nothing, you can rise, stronger than ever. A soft knock drew me back to reality. Meredith, my assistant, smiled. Your next mentorship session is ready. 20 students eager to meet you. I nodded. 20 lives, I thought, changing for the better because I refused to give up. Step 2. Quiet justice. Claire had vanished from the public eye. The Whitmore Empire lay in ruins, a cautionary tale. I never needed to confront her again. The truth had spoken louder than any argument, louder than any drama she could muster. I kept one small file, proof of every deception. Not for revenge anymore, but for remembrance. A reminder of the girl I used to be, and the woman I became. Step 3. The next chapter. The mentorship program flourished. Students from underprivileged backgrounds received not only tuition but guidance, resources, and belief. I spent afternoons teaching, evenings strategizing for Mednova, nights holding Leo as he drifted to sleep. Every moment, intentional, powerful, unshakable. Michael joined me on the balcony one evening. You did it, he whispered. You built everything you wanted. You survived everything they threw at you. I leaned against him, letting the city lights flicker below. Yes, I said softly. And now it's not about surviving. It's about thriving. About creating a life no one can touch. Step 4. Closure. A letter arrived that evening, Claire's handwriting unmistakable. Amber, I see now you were never the problem. I was. I am sorry. Perhaps one day you can forgive me. I read it, folded it neatly, and placed it in the drawer. Forgiveness was optional. Power was permanent. I walked to Leo's room, brushing back his hair as he slept, Michael by my side. The battles of the past, college funds stolen, family lies, betrayal, humiliation, were behind me. All that remained was this: the life I had built, the family I had chosen, the legacy I would leave. The city's skyline shimmered outside our windows. Riverton would remember the rise of Mira Evans, not because she destroyed, but because she endured, overcame, and flourished. And I smiled quietly, finally free, finally whole, finally victorious. Some people chase revenge. I didn't. I chose life. And life, as it turns out, was the sweetest victory of all. Morning sunlight warmed the small terrace of our new apartment. Leo's laughter bubbled from the living room, chasing shadows of my past that had lingered far too long. Michael moved around the kitchen, humming softly, pancakes in hand, and I realized this life was mine. Every corner, every detail, built by me, no one else. I poured coffee and let my gaze drift over the city skyline. Riverton sparkled, oblivious to the storm I had survived and conquered. The Whitmore Empire had fallen. Claire's manipulations, the lies, the years of humiliation, they were all gone, erased not with vengeance, but with truth. I touched the small stack of files I had left unopened, the evidence of their deceit. Not for revenge, not for confrontation, just reminders of who I had been and who I had become. Step 1. Personal victory. I turned to my work, guiding Mednova's latest mentorship program for students who, like me, had been underestimated, overlooked, or abandoned. Their eyes, wide with hope and curiosity, reminded me why I had fought so hard. I wasn't just surviving. I was inspiring. Michael stepped beside me, resting a hand on my shoulder. You did it, he said quietly. You didn't just win. You built a life no one can touch. I smiled, letting the city lights reflect in my eyes. Yes, I whispered. And now I don't need to fight anyone else's battles. I only need to live mine. Step 2. Closure. A letter arrived from Claire, her handwriting familiar yet fragile. Amber, I see now. You were never the problem. I was. I am sorry. I hope someday you can forgive me. I placed it carefully in a drawer. Forgiveness was optional. My life, my choices, my power, unchallenged, permanent, unstoppable. Step 3. The legacy. Leo ran past, clutching a small sapling we were about to plant in the balcony garden. "Mom, I want to plant it here." I knelt beside him, patting the soil. "Some plants need space to grow. Just like people, buddy." Michael joined us, smiling, and I realized every struggle, every betrayal, every lonely night had led to this moment. Peace, family, and a future of my own making. The city stretched beyond the balcony. Riverton would remember Mira Evans, not because she had destroyed, but because she had endured, survived, and risen. I leaned against Michael, watching Leo's small hands patting the soil. Some seek revenge. I chose life. And life, with its small victories and quiet triumphs, had given me everything.